First of all, I want to say hi to my friends in Asheville at the Community Foundation for Western North Carolina. I remember fondly my visit down there a couple of years ago on Valentine's Day, and have really made a note. I need to visit North Carolina sometime in the summer when it's not quite so cold. Lisa asked me to talk a little bit about advocacy as a next step in the Community Foundation's development, and kind of how we've come to view public policy advocacy, which we both fund, but more importantly, we do directly. And the reason that we do it is pretty simple. It's how you get things done, ultimately. We are very aware that in our efforts to improve the quality of life for residents in Berks County, that we are sometimes working in cooperation with and sometimes bumping up against various governmental units. But we also have to recognize that if we're going to rely on our dollars to make change, when we bump up against those governmental units, we're going to be in a little bit of trouble. Berks County's annual budget is big enough that they would spend the entire grant-making budget of the Community Foundation in about a day and a half. So when it comes to affecting really substantial change, we know we've got to somehow either engage with government as a partner or push government to do the work that they need to do to fulfill the vision that our community has created for itself. I'll give you just a really specific example or two about that. When I was down and visited with you, I talked about our work in developing a plan to preserve farmland in our community. Well, it was all well and good to have that plan, but that meant nothing if it wasn't implemented, and the cost of implementing that would require about $100 million over a 10-year period. Now, there was simply no way the Community Foundation could write a check for $100 million, so we had to advocate with county government to float the bond issues that it would take to pay for that. And that involved something that looked a lot like lobbying county government. But because we grounded that in what the community had already told us was their important vision for the future, there really wasn't a great deal of controversy about it, even though there were some people who weren't particularly happy. There were people who would like to see farmland not preserved, but the broad consensus in our community was to do that. In addition, we advocated with the county commissioners to create a county agriculture coordinator, because we knew we wanted to help preserve the industry of agriculture, not just the space to do agriculture. And we went to the commissioners and convinced them to create a position, and funded part of it as part of the way we convinced them, but nevertheless we were pretty strong advocates. We've come to view virtually any community initiative that we undertake as necessarily having an advocacy component to it if we're going to make a meaningful impact on the quality of life in our county. So today we're working hard with and frankly against some of our public school districts and trying to get them to focus more on educational attainment and performance. And we've had to be loud and vocal advocates for change in the community, including our very loudly stated position that we don't think 18 school districts is the right structural formula, and there ought to be one. That doesn't always make everybody happy, but I think people at least respect that we've arrived there through a very thoughtful process. So as you begin to think about how the Community Foundation of Western North Carolina can be more active in advocacy and use its resources and the incredible power that you represent in your part of the state through effective advocacy to get things done, we'd be happy to share stories with you and to hear about your successes as well.